So what I'll start with is showing you how to use Management Studio in order to create a view. So to do that, you launch Management Studio, and I'll go down into Databases and Northwind here. And as you can see, we have nodes for all of the different objects that are available within the Northwind database. So I can right-click on Views and select New View. And that'll open up this View Designer. And the first thing you get is the Add Table dialog box. And here's where you can select which tables you want to include in the view. So in this case, I want to create a view that accesses data within the Products and Categories table. So Categories is already selected, so I'll hold down the Control key and select Products, and click on Add to add them to the designer. And then I can add various other objects that I want. Views, functions, synonyms, whatever. But that's enough for this simple view. So I'll close that dialog box. And as you can see, we already have the general outline of a view. So this is the select statement so far that we have that shows that we're going to select something, some fields, I haven't selected any fields yet, from Categories and Products, and it automatically creates an inner join and links them together based on the relationship between those two tables. All right, now I need to select the fields that I want to include, the data that I want to retrieve through this view. So I'll select Category Name and Product Name, as well as Discontinued. And you might have to scroll down or expand the size of the box there in order to see Discontinued. And as you can see, as I add each of those fields, the designer automatically changes the select statement to include that information. All right, I want to clean up what's returned by the view a little bit, so I can also specify aliases. So instead of returning this field name as category name, I'll return it as just category. And I'll do the same thing for product. And as you can see, that adds the aliases to those two fields. Now, I don't want to actually return the discontinued value from the view. And so I'm going to unselect the output column. If I widen that a little bit, you can see that says output. And now that's not part of the list of fields in the select clause of the select statement. But instead what I want to do is I want to filter on the discontinued column. So I'm going to select equals 0. So that means that this view is only going to return products that are not discontinued, because discontinued has a 1 or true when the product is discontinued. So that's how you can filter the products, and I hit enter, and you can see that it adds the where clause there. Okay, so that pretty much defines the view that I want. So now I can select to execute it, and I can see down here the results from the current view, and I can make sure that it returns the results that I want. And when I'm happy with it, I can save it. So I'll click on Save, and I'll enter this as View Available Products. And that saves that view to the Northwind database. So I can come down here, and you can see that we now have the Available Products view. Now it's time to test it. So I'll open up a new query, and I'll do a select star from dbo.vw. And as you can see, IntelliSense hasn't picked up that there's a new view within the database, but we can use it nonetheless. And I'll go ahead and execute that, and we see we get the results. And again, if I hover over the red squiggly, it says invalid object name. It's just that IntelliSense hasn't caught up to the fact that there's a new view available within the Northwind database. Okay, if later you come back and you want to modify the view, you can come down here into its listing within the Views section of the Northwind database, and right-click on it, script the view as, select Alter to, New Query Editor window, and that gives you this window with the Transact SQL that you can use to modify the view. So you can modify it either by directly modifying the Transact SQL, or if the designer is closed, then you can right-click here and select Design, and that'll open up the view again within the designer. Another nice option is that you can also choose to script the select statement for the view. So I'll right-click on the view again, and I'll select Script View As, and select to a new query editor window, and that will construct a select statement for that view. One interesting thing here is that Management Studio automatically adds these square brackets around all of the different object names, just in case any of the object names are not valid SQL Server identifiers on their own. Okay, and so I could either execute that directly, or if I wanted to, I'll go in and add a where clause. And in this case, I'll filter on the category equal to condiments. Okay, then I can execute that statement, and now we get all of the products within the condiments category. All right, one thing to keep in mind is that you've now created a persistent database object. So unlike a select statement, if I open up a query editor window, type in a select statement, execute it, and then close the query editor window, that object or that statement is gone. But in this case, I've created a view which is a persistent database object. So it's going to be here the next time I open up Management Studio and open up this Northwind database forevermore, or at least until I delete it or recreate the database. It's a persistent database object. Another way to create a view using Management Studio is using a template. So in order to get to the templates, I can come up here to View and Template Explorer. As you can see, there's a number of categories of templates. Right now, we're interested in the View templates. As you can see, there's 3 different templates that you can use in order to manipulate views. Create an index view, create a view, and drop a view. Now, one thing that's interesting about this is that the name of this used to be Template Explorer. And that's the name within the View menu here, Template Explorer. But it now opens the Template Browser. So don't be confused by that. They refer to the same thing. It appears that Microsoft changed the name in one place, but not in the other. All right, so if I want to create a view, I can come down here to the template, double-click on it. I'll free up some window space here. And that opens this template that has all of the basic syntax for creating a view. Now, you need to understand enough about the syntax for creating the view so that you can modify the code directly. So this is an alternative to using the designer. But using a template is nice because it provides the basic syntax, so you don't have to remember create view and what do I do next and so forth. And so you can fill in the fields from here. So at this point, I can either just go in and start modifying these different values that are delimited by angle brackets. So I'd have to change the database name and the schema name and so forth. Or I can click this option right here and specify the different values for the different parameters, the different input values for this specific template. All right, so in this case, I'm going to specify the Northwind database. I'm going to use DBO. The view name is going to be condiments, so I'll use this prefix. And then I need to specify the select statement. Now this is where it's a little bit hard. There really isn't any kind of option here in order to provide more space other than expanding the size of the field there, though. But what I'm going to do is type in select. I'll just keep things simple and do a select star from categories, where category is equal to condiments. And hit enter. All right, and so when I click on OK, it fills in all of the values within the template. And then if I execute this, and I have a problem because this should actually be category name. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so the nice thing about that is that it prevented me from creating the view because I had a syntax error. Well, not really a syntax error, but I had an incorrect column name. There was no category column within the categories table, and so it stopped me from creating the view.